Alright guys, such comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. After a big drama back at the Esports World Cup, it seems that Ghosty and Neptune have officially settled their differences, and going into the upcoming season we're expecting them to potentially be on the same roster. They're certainly not turning any of those ideas down based on what we saw last night. Some big drama going on elsewhere as well, especially with Ghosty having a few words to say for Gataga with all the Gentamates fans in his chat. For everyone to join to your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. I wanted to start with a few Call of Duty things. This is pretty crazy. I don't really know how this is possible, but anyway, the Call of Duty update on PS5 is reducing the size of the file from 126 gigabytes down to 25, and that's for like BO6 and all this type of stuff. So pretty crazy. I don't know, like, look, if they put as much effort into, let's say, streamlining the file, as it were, as they did into making a good anti-cheat, then COD might be in a far better spot. Ghost of Hope says, dare I say it, Call of Duty is, well, you know, back obviously, but you know what I'm saying. There was also a bit of drama from Ghost of Hope on COD Next. Now, I'm not really too familiar with this type of stuff, but I thought it was kind of dramatic, so I thought I'd mention it anyway. So we know that COD Next is coming up relatively soon. There's some people that get invited, some people that don't, and, you know, it's always been that way. We know that they like to invite people who are going to say good things about the game and all this, and that makes perfect sense. At the end of the day, it is a marketing endeavor. But Ghost of Hope says that there are certain people who are perfectly valid to be getting these invites to COD Next who are not getting invited, because apparently the guy involved has a personal vendetta. So whether you believe this or not, it's up to you. But Ghost of Hope says, seeing content creator friends get no invites to COD Next but people with barely any viewers or subs get invited is actually nuts. Sad thing is that it's a personal vendetta for the guy responsible for inviting creators. He's even gone as far to pretty much harassing and judging creators for being friends or interacting with me just because I leak Call of Duty. And there's talk about T-Dog, who doesn't look like he's getting invited despite living and breathing this stuff. And Ghost of Hope says, yeah, that's a perfect example of this personal vendetta. And Ghost of Hope says they don't like how he hated Modern Warfare 2, but I might be wrong. So, you know, again, we kind of know how this works, but I thought it was interesting to read. And then he goes on to say, the PR guy's a complete douche and everyone knows it. He mentioned me out of nowhere plenty of times at these events and has judged creators for interacting with me and being friends on the suspicion they're leaking to me. But they're not, he says. So, you know, it's all going on last night. Thought that was pretty exciting. There's also this that's going around. Look, we know what these movie studios are up to nowadays. They will find any IP they can and try and squeeze the living daylights out of it. And, well, they might be doing the same with COD. So there are rumours that Paramount are interested in acquiring the rights to make a Call of Duty film. Now, of course, this isn't really going to be related to competitive COD, obviously, apart from if maybe famous Sharknado 3 actor Doug Spencer Martin could potentially get a role in the film. That's something to think about. More than likely it would be about, you know, Ghost or Mason, or I don't know, like some of the other classic COD characters, and they would do something about that. And it might be kind of good. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Could it be good for COD? Would it be like big for the scene in the same way that like Formula 1 just did that big movie and it's been beneficial in some regards? Okay, maybe it helps Call of Duty. Would it help COD competitive? That's a different question and largely depends on the way that Microsoft continue to approach things going forwards. With the FaZe trio splitting up, we officially saw it earlier today. A couple of fascinating stats coming out of the trio here. So the Tiny Terrors played against 130 different players in the Call of Duty League, and out of those 130, only 6 of those players had a winning record against the 2 of them. Now, General, remarkably enough, if you guys remember that event where Illy had to step out because of his thumb injury, General stepped in, they beat them that event. That kind of was symptomatic of FaZe's struggles against OpTic at that moment. But remarkably enough, both of the guys on Heretics this season had a great record against FaZe. Wrinkle was 4-3, Super was 4-1 against FaZe when he played in this season. Pretty much the most impressive record on here. Pharaoh, rest in peace, when he played FaZe back in Modern Warfare 19, had a 3-1 record. Even Spart has a 3-2 record, a classic with a 3-2 record as well. So kind of remarkable to look at these names because you might not expect it to be these names, but those are the guys with a winning record. The other interesting stat, though, is when you look in the grand finals, it's then a particularly different story. And this, again, this is the issue for FaZe when it comes to that, like, let's say, OpTic complexity dynasty discussion, because yeah, against 130 players, they have winning or drawing records, mostly winning, against 130 or against 124 of them, and 6 of them they have a losing record to, whereas in grand finals, that number changes quite a lot. So in finals, this is their record against a number of players. The yellow, of course, is tied against Shotzzy, Kremp, Slasher, Mac, Asim, Pred, Drazah, and Octane. They're tied at 1-1 or 2-2 or 3-3. There's a plenty of players that they've beat in finals. Nastie, Bristini, Morks, TJ, Chino, Kenny as well. Dashy, they're 2-1 against. Ghosty, 2-1 against. And then, of course, the players at the bottom here, Kremp, JoeDeceives, Neptune, 04, and Drazah. But every other player on the list they have a losing record against in finals. Kind of crazy, right? Like Skies is the FaZe Reaper in finals. They played him 5 times and he beat them 4 times. Illy 3-2, HyDra 3-2, Envoy 3-2, Huke 3-1, who's also kind of had their number. CleanX, even Havoc. Of course, a lot of these are from back in MW19 with Havoc and Frosty. Cami, Bant, Insight, and Scrap, all of those guys, they've got a losing record against in finals. FeLo and Big Wake, Sib, Kismet, Methods, I mean, like, you know, Ziddy and Classic. Scump, they played him in 1 grand finals. They lost to him, of course, at the start of Vanguard. Spart, Accuracy, and Priestess. So, you know, it's difficult, isn't it, for FaZe? If you add the numbers up, if you look at their winning and tying records, that comes to 22 players, whereas they have a losing record against 23 players in finals. So, you know, you can see this either way, right? Because it's incredibly impressive what FaZe accomplished, making it to so many grand finals, playing so many players in grand finals, and achieving an awful lot, but they didn't win those finals at the rate that they should have done. And when you look at it like this, it doesn't look as compelling as if you looked at, let's say, Kremp record in finals. That would look rather different to these type of numbers. Speaking of aBeZy, I thought this was funny that was doing the rounds. This guy OpTic Chef says #GreenWar, and he looked up aBeZy's tweets at OpTic, and it's funny to look back at this because a lot of pro players, if you search their Twitter for OpTic, you'll find stuff like this because a lot of these guys, when they were kids, they were coming up like they were OpTic fans, right? So we see it here. I thought it was pretty funny though to see as he says OpTic is too dominant. OpTic better not let us down. So obviously part of the green wall. OpTic choking, sad face. I love OpTic. #OpTic. Good night. OpTic is winning today. When I wake up, it'll be a good day. So he just sounds like exactly what an OpTic fan of today and also back then would talk about. But of course, it's aBeZy, right? So people are saying, oh, here we go. And Drazah gets, well, he adds him in the replies to say, well, I can't believe you've done this type thing. But we know that aBeZy's off FaZe now. Does that mean he's going to OpTic? Not now, maybe not ever, maybe not yet, who knows, time will tell. But one of the interesting developments over the last few days has been around Gentlemate and what's happening over there, because the Ghosty, Envoy, Sib, Neptune team has been turning quite a few heads. Ghosty and Envoy, makes perfect sense, coming off the Thieves. Neptune, of course, one of the most promising guys of last season, pretty surprising I would say that he wasn't maybe considered for some of the other teams slightly earlier. There was talk about whether FaZe could have thought about getting Neptune instead of 04, but we think they're going a different way there. And then Sib, we thought maybe he could have gone to the Falcons, but it seems that he was maybe not offered enough to make that compelling for him, given the other opportunity. So that's what we think their team is doing, but it was one of the questions to wonder whether Ghosty and Neptune, and just from a personality perspective, whether this would cause any problems, because at the Esports World Cup, only about a month ago, this was one of the biggest dramas of the whole tournament, and we think it was... well, we don't know, but there were discussions as to whether this had some relevancy on whether Ghosty was to stay on Thieves or not, because... well, anyway, when Ghosty had this whole rant against Neptune at the time he speaks into the controller cam and all this, you can see that his teammates, Ghosty, are like, you know, they're not really about it. They're not exactly backing him up. They're like, oh, you know, here he goes again. That was my read anyway. And there was some discussion as to whether Thieves were like, oh, I can't believe this Ghosty guy keeps yapping like this. It's not like his coaches were coming over to try and like calm him down or back him up or anything. So there was some talk about that. So for multiple reasons, this particular moment was quite a big talking point of the World Cup. But it was mainly because Ghosty thought Neptune had snaked him on Hacienda. Neptune then said, actually, no, I hadn't. And you can see here that he hits, you know, to do some in-game trash talking as well. So anyway, this was big beef at the World Cup. After the tournament, you know, okay, after the match was over, they kind of shook hands a little bit, but it wasn't particularly amicable. And now we're talking about them potentially teaming together for the upcoming season. And it seems now almost inevitable that it's going to be happening, because as of last night, these guys were playing some ranked together. Neptune had ranked with Dan Ghosty, and Ghosty was on stream. We'll see a couple of clips from it here in a second, some of which are pretty funny, and it looks like this is going to be a duo for the new year.
Maybe it's one. Maybe it's only one in the back. 3 front.
It was getting weird, bro. 1 front, 1 mid, 1. Spawning everywhere. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think Nightbot, bro, has retired, chat. No bullshit. I think he's taking a hiatus. Whoa, what's he doing there at all?
Look out her palms.
What's he doing there, bro?
Holy shit. This guy got grabbed up.
Dude, I mean, I'm just shooting like I literally... Wait, Sabertooth was giving him back shots? Finessing him. I'm just working this pillar. I mean, I work this pillar. I work this pillar. Yeah, I'm working this pillar. Yeah.
Oh, you should, dude. You're finessing.
I'm working this pillar. Oh shit. Working this pillar.
That's right, you shit.
We're just banging. It's just, it's inevitable, truly. Do you think you could gun Gotaga in his prime? Yeah. %100%. You guys like how I was working that pillar? You guys fuck with that? The freaks are out. We love feet. Let me ask my duo real quick. Yo, Trav! Bro, I have a hella important question, bro.
Yo, what's good?
Do you fuck with feet?
Feet? Dude,
Yeah,
that's crazy, bro.
Yeah, my chat's saying they like seeing them and tasting them.
Holy shit. Do they give subs?
Do they give subs?
Bro, we could do a duo foot cam. Feet cam.
He definitely.
We just grind rank play, bro.
Bro, chat's saying that you definitely like feet, bro.
Ah, bro, that's crazy, dude.
I feel like
crazy, bro.
Nah, I mean like, bro, that's hella crazy. Me too, but like that's hella crazy, bro.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Secure the objective.
So what does this say about some of the other beefs that we have seen in due course? Especially at FaZe, there have been some beef squashed over the last couple of years. The big one really was aBeZy and Drazah. There was quite a lot of drama when Drazah was on Thieves about Keeks and all this, and aBeZy had a few things to say in it. Well, those, let's say, weren't exactly the best of friends for some time, but they managed to squash that beef and were teaming together, and they won quite a lot with one another. Then we know the big beef of today is Drazah versus Scrap. That does not seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, as we know. But is it impossible that they could squash the beef and team together? No, but probably not yet. And Ghosty and Neptune, the beef wasn't that severe, it wasn't that serious, it certainly wasn't that personal. So the idea of them, going from trash talking just a few weeks ago to now seemingly being boys when they're about to play on the same team shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but certainly does show that, when the money is right and when the opportunity is there, these guys aren't going to turn down those type of opportunities. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see, and also Ghosty with a couple of words for Gotaga saying, yeah, I'd gun him in his prime, because of course his chat is flooded, and for good reason, with plenty of Gentlemates fans who are looking forward to this new roster. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. I'll just share this clip for you guys to close out the video, because I think you might find this rather entertaining. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
So it started off really good. We're just on my balcony smoking whatever, everyone's laughing. I don't know, Shotzzy calls out a plane. He's like, bro, look at that fucking plane. And then everyone just starts busting out laughing. My brother's there as well. So we are under like adult,
Yeah.
Like we got people looking over us and stuff like that. But yeah, everyone's fucking bursting out laughing over some random shit. And then all of a sudden, everyone paused. He goes, it's happening. he goes, it's happening. And me, Ender, and my brother, we all looked at me. I was the only one who knew what he was talking about. Ender keeps laughing. He's like, what the fuck, bro? What are you saying? And then I'm like dead serious. Like I stood there, I was just looking at him. And he's like, Kyler, bro, it's happening. And I'm just like hands off. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but like, and it just keeps going. And you know, he couldn't move for a little bit, and then like we got him to the couch, and then he's standing up, and then we're like, yo, you want to sit? This is where like I started taking care of him. I'm like, yo, he's like, you can sit, yada yada. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna sit, and he's like, never mind, I can't. And then I was like, all right. He's like, what do you need? And then he's like, I don't know, bro. And then I'm like, you need water? He's like, yeah. And then I hand him a water, and then I give it to him, and he's like handing it like he like is just standing still, like super. He has very stiff movements this whole time. And I hand him the water, and he grabs it, but like his hand was already out like this, so he holds it, and then he's like, "I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm gonna need you to drink." Or he's like, "I'm gonna need you to like pour it like in my mouth." He said he couldn't do it himself, and then I'm like, "You dead ass?" And then he's like, "Yeah." And I'm looking at my brother. I look at Ender. I'm like, and then they're like, "Go do it."
Yeah. He needs water.
Yeah, they're like, go do it.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
That's a real friend.
Yeah.
That's a
no,
real
we were
friend.
taking care of him. I don't know exactly what was going on in his mind, right, or whatever the fuck was going on, but obviously it was something serious.